Hey, you guys. So, this is Thoughts with Queen T, and my thought or topic for today is going to be on grief. And I think normally when maybe we think about grief, it is the loss of a loved one. But I think it's important to acknowledge the other forms of grief that there are as well, because grief is essentially any sort of loss that you have or that you are experiencing. So it can be the loss of a relationship, loss of a job, loss of maybe some health that you have, loss of maybe finances, any sort of loss that you may be experiencing. And so, with that, you may have a lot of painful emotions, and that can be very overwhelming. What essentially made me think of this topic in particular is a few different reasons. Every day, I think somebody experiences some form of grief, but two, like right now, I think it's really personal for me. I know somebody who is just, I think, going through grief in their own form. Um, in regards to their health. So it's it's been a topic that I have read a little bit on, been trying to understand even for myself, am I also experiencing grief? Um, in relation to maybe like what they're feeling, what I'm feeling. Um, and so that's why I wanted to talk about it. The thing is, though, when it comes to grief, I'm sure a lot of you know the 5 stages where you have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And the thing is it's not going to be this like linear experience. It's not even going to be like, oh, a week is up. Now I'm good. I can go back to feeling however I'm feeling. No, it grief is really kind of your own personal experience. It's going to be, it could be weeks, it could be maybe a month, it could be months. Who knows? It's really up to you, your personality, what you believe in, things like that. It's not going to be, hey, here's a cheat sheet. Oh, you've lost your job. Well, this is the appropriate amount of time that it takes for you to grieve. So by the end of that time, you should be done. If it were that easy, I'm sure that would be very nice, but it's not. And it's also too, like I said, it's not going to be a linear experience. Emotions are going to be like a roller coaster. You may feel like, hey, I'm at stage 1 right now. Now I'm at stage 2, but then you go back at stage 1. You might also experience emotions that maybe you hadn't really ever thought of or experienced before. You may have instances where, you know, it's things that, you just because you've never been in that position before. You've never been in a situation where you've had those types of feelings, or even maybe thoughts where, you know, oh, if only I could maybe, you know, if it is in regards to the loss of somebody, regret not doing certain things with them, or if it is the loss of a relationship, maybe you're overthinking so much in regards to why did the relationship end if you didn't get closure. It's things like that. And so that's where, when it comes to, well, how do you cope? What should you do in these instances? I've talked about it before, where in a lot of these situations where you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with things, it's really important to talk with somebody. And of course, if it feels like, well, I don't have anybody, like, would they understand? Then I always recommend, like, I'm sure there's a counselor or even a therapist of some kind, like somebody will like can sit down and talk with you, and you can express how you're thinking and feeling, and they will hear you out and they will help you. But if you have a friend or a family member who would sit down and you can express how you're feeling, or even if they're experiencing the same thing you are, then that is probably the best way to go. That is one kind of step or thing off a checklist that you can do to kind of get some of that weight off of your shoulders, to fill up and kind of cope a little bit, where you're not feeling or almost overwhelmed with, all this emotion. Because if you are somebody, who does hold it in a lot, that does not do anyone a service. That's not, oh, that makes you look brave, that makes you look strong. That really doesn't, I would say, do anything. That doesn't help you out. That doesn't help everyone else out. I mean, sure, in the moment, maybe they're like, oh, they're handling it very well. But in reality, if you bottle everything in, after a while, it's just going to overflow. After a while, you're just going to explode, and it's not going to end up well because depending on everything that you're feeling, you could just let it all out at once. And I don't think you would really want that. And I doubt maybe you'd want to express that, again, depending on, maybe the situation that you're in. You'd maybe want that to be, around other people as well. So it's best to just share that towards everybody. And also, how I mentioned earlier in regards to a timetable, if people say you should be over it, just don't listen to them. That's also something I would recommend. I know you're gonna probably have instances where people say, just get over it. If you're not over it and maybe you haven't processed it all yet, again, each situation is very different, but no one can really dictate how you're feeling. And if it did just happen, if it is something where, they feel like it's been a week, you should just get over it. It's not just gonna be, oh, I'm better, it's good. Like, that's not how that works. So that's something where I would almost take some things, again, depending on the individual, with a grain of salt, where if someone is just saying, like, because I'm sure if you have certain, like, family members or people that I have some where it's like, well, just get over it. Just take it with a grain of salt. Like, who those people are. Just take it with a grain of salt and move on and do what you need to do to kind of, process everything and cope in the way that you need to. But in order to, I would say, almost move forward, it would also be, like I said, talking it out. I would also say finding things that you enjoy doing. Finding things that, again, every circumstance is going to be very different in regards to, well, what did you lose? But it's going to be, okay, what is it that you need to do to, I don't even want to say be happy, but what would it help you to kind of, let go and release? Is it just, hey, I need to talk about, my emotions, my feelings. I need closure. I need, maybe you want to do something fun, like, or take up a new hobby, or do something that you love. It's things like that where, you kind of, like I said, just need to take that time and process. And I also understand too where it's going to be overwhelming, and that's why it is a very time consuming thing. It's not going to be just, hey, you're done and you're over it. You're going to have situations where in some of these cases, yeah, your grieving process may be short, it may be long. You don't know. And that's all up to you. And you have to do kind of what's best for you and what you feel like would be the best direction for you to kind of help you accept and kind of get to that final phase. And you might even have times where I wouldn't even say the grief comes back, but maybe you think about it, or something occurs where, you know, oh, remember that time. But it depends on kind of what you do and how you process that. I know for some people it's really a mentality thing where, you know, remember that negative time, but then they really turn it into a positive. So I think it really just depends on your personality, how you kind of look at things, and what you kind of do with it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.